Do you want to discover more joy, peace, and freedom with food exercising your body? Here we bring a compassionate, holistic, and sustainable approach to fitness so you can fully enjoy the life you want and express your unique self with the world. I'm Michelle Roscoe, and I want to help you find fitness freedom. I'm so glad you're here.
Have you heard of Harriet Tubman? She was born in the mid-1850s. She was born a slave to slave parents in Maryland, and she eventually escaped and found freedom in Pennsylvania up north and helped free so many other slaves. Among other things, she was also involved in war. She dedicated her life to not only freeing herself, but freeing others. I was reading a book called How to Heal. I think that's what it's called, by Prentice Hemphill. And she mentions in the first chapter on vision, Harriet Tubman. And I felt this pull to read more about Harriet Tubman, so I found her book online. I've been reading it, and I wanted to make some parallels between Harriet Tubman's life and her search for freedom, and maybe what you're searching for: fitness freedom, freedom in your body, freedom with food, with exercise, with your life, and hopefully be able to help you discover more of that. So Harriet Tubman, she was, from what I learned in this book, and I have listened to a lengthy podcast about her, but I forgot a lot of the details. It was nice to get some refreshers. She's an amazing, powerful human being who is supposed to be on the $20 bill. I hope that happens. She definitely deserves it. But she was always a stubborn kid. There was like this grittiness in her where she knew that she did not deserve the treatment that she got. She had a hard time listening to her masters. She was such a hard worker. And reading this book opened my eyes to even bigger powers of oppression and abuse. And something I wrote down early on, and I want to start off with this and then make some parallels that are interesting and helpful for you, is that freedom, and Harriet's freedom and all of our freedom, comes from, especially freedom from oppression and abuse or oppressive systems or people, comes from knowing that you are worthy, you have value as a human being, inherent, unchanging worth and value, and knowing that you are powerful, that you have the power to make choices and create something in your life that is closer to who you really are, that worth and value. Harriet Tubman, in her own words, she said, "God's time is always near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free." He meant I should be free. So Harriet Tubman, early on, she knew that she was meant to be free, that her situation was not as it should be, that she was meant for more. So every time she was abused, and if you looked at pictures online, you can see that she had these huge welts on her. She had these huge welts on her back from horrible whipping. She was sick for weeks after she was whipped for not listening to her master. Just horrible abuse, slavery. Not even 200 years ago this happened. But she knew that she was meant for more. She used the resources around her, like the North Star. She used all the strength in her body to free herself. So I wrote some notes down. Remember, this is the basis of freedom. Freedom from oppression, abuse comes from knowing, or even just freedom, comes from knowing you are worthy as a human being and you are powerful to choose. And this is, by the way, the whole basis of the 4-H method and the work that I do. You are worthy and you are powerful. Worth and power. These are two things that so much hangs on, including freedom. And every person I know who's found freedom in their lives, whether it be from an eating disorder or from a diet culture or in their bodies or from an abusive situation, had this realization or this inner knowing the entire time that they were worthy, that they could have what they wanted, that they deserved good things, and that even though they were limited in their choices, even when things were difficult, they knew that they had the power to make different choices, to make choices that would allow them to be free, to escape, to be resilient. And that is, I think, something that is so beautiful about people. Yeah, so Harriet Tubman, it's interesting. Something I noticed in the book is the difference between white and black Christianity. And by the way, this book is called Freedom Train. It's Harriet Tubman's story. And there's a lot of allusions to like gospel songs, which is something that the slaves used. Actually, I learned in the book that the owners and the managers, the overseers, wanted the slaves to sing because they wanted them to be happy. If they didn't appear happy, they would be worried that they would try to escape or they wouldn't work as hard. So it was almost like they were both forced to sing, and it was an expression of what they could do. And Harriet Tubman in the book, at one point in the book I read that she sang even louder in defiance because that's what they wanted, and she gave it her all. And she was a powerful force. But interestingly, America is founded in Christian values, so that's no surprise. But it's so interesting because the black people, they would gather and congregate and learn Bible stories. They would sing gospel songs. And to them, Christianity was a way to hope, like Israel coming out of Egypt through Moses' delivery. That was an inspiring story and theme in a lot of their songs. Whereas the white people, they used religion as a way to oppress. So when the black people were getting quote unquote too hopeful or too loud in their meetings, the white people, they were banned from having religious services, and they had a white pastor come in, and he would call verses. He would emphasize portions of the Bible like slaves, be obedient to your masters, and use the verses that would benefit the white people. So I thought that was interesting. There can be the same text, and in one way it can be used to hope, and in one way it can be used to oppress. And I'm not going into my beliefs on the Bible or anything like that right now, but that's the way that abusive cultures work, right? Where you can twist the words to benefit yourself and hurt other people. The other thing that I noticed, aside from using their voices in songs, they also sent secret messages to each other. When Harriet Tubman finally, well, let me go back a little bit. She had, even when she wanted to escape, her family, even her husband at the time, completely told her, you're wild, you're crazy, it's not going to work, it's not going to happen, you should just stay safe, you should just keep doing what you're doing. They discouraged her from it. And the more that they discouraged her, the more she built a resolve to go for freedom and what she wanted, until eventually she did. And she went on this week-long trip up towards the north, towards free, quote-unquote, free country in Pennsylvania from the state that she was in. So even though others did not see her vision of freedom, she was so strong in it and so convinced of it that it led her to take a treacherous, extremely dangerous journey on her own. And on the journey, she was so close, within a stone's throw of people who were on the hunt for specifically her. And she got through. She made it through to her freedom, towards freedom. And she was so convinced of it. And I want to share how she even got to that point. She was helping this slave escape, and during the chase, there was a man who was chasing this slave. She was in between, and he threw a stone or a heavy object to stop the man, but he ended up throwing it at Harriet Tubman's head, and she was never the same after that. She suffered from narcolepsy. She would have sleeping fits randomly. But one of the things that forced her to do was to rest. Of course, she was extremely sick. She had fever. She couldn't work. She was incapacitated, so she had to stay in her parents' house and sleep a lot. And during that time, she had visions of how she would escape into freedom. She had visions of how people deserve to be free. And she used that time of rest to get stronger and clearer in her desires and in her freedom. And I know that if she didn't have that time, she probably would have figured out a way to get there. But it made that resolve to get free even stronger. And I want to emphasize here how important it is to have rest. A lot of the times we are so, I'm taking this into modern culture, of course, it's a completely different context. We're not slaves here, at least not in the form that Harriet Tubman was. But we are so bombarded with voices, even mine right now. You're hearing my voice. You see voices on the media, from books. There's so many voices telling you what you should do and who you are and what you should like and what you should want. And it requires rest and stillness to get clear on what is true for you and what you really want to build that vision. And the more you rest and stick with your vision, you daydream, you create in your head what it is you really want, and feel that pull and that growth in your heart, the stronger you are when you go out into the world and you're able to actually create it. And in the 4-H method, it starts with rest. It's the only fitness and health program, wellness program I know that starts with rest. And without that rest, you can't have that foundation, that strong foundation and clarity on what it is that you really want. And I will say that the deeper your rest and the stronger your rest, the more clear you can be. I think that there's a correlation there. And of course, we want to sometimes skimp on rest. We want to get to the answers really quick, but we have to be willing to let go and to just be still. And I will say there is a deep connection between rest and knowing our worth and power, that basis for freedom. Because when we are moving, when we are doing, when we are creating, we are often putting our worth and our value into what we are doing and what we are producing. I mean, look at the world we're in right now. There's such a hustle culture, success and external metrics of money or possessions or positions of power rob us of this basic human divine right to rest. So we need to rest. And if you want a place to practice that, come over to the 4-H method with so many ways to encourage you in your rest. Of course, no one can do anything for you. It's your choice. But if you do want to get clear on what you want, if you do want to get clear on your own freedom, come and rest in the 4-H method. That's where we start. And you don't have to completely stop your job or go on vacation for a month, but you can find ways to rest in the life that you are living now. And I would say do it sooner than later. It's something you can always return back to. It's not a one and done. It is something we need to return to. So after resting from that terrible head wound and subsequent narcolepsy, she got so clear and she worked hard to earn money. Her situation changed. She was able to earn money because she wasn't as helpful in the fields because of her condition. And so she started earning her own money and saving her own money. She tried to buy herself out from her master. He laughed at her and gave her a ridiculous amount. I wish I could go punch his face or do something even more painful to him. Like, what a dickhead. slavery, and it's not, that goes back to systems of oppression. It's a system and it's individuals, and they're both connected. Anyways, so she worked really hard. She ended up marrying a free man who had been a slave, and he took advantage of her. There we go with some sexism. He used a lot of her money and discouraged her from finding freedom, and just kind of lived off of her, so to speak, in her work. Thankfully, she left him when she left for freedom. There's a #win there. But so when she decided to get help, she's like, even though her husband and her brothers were like, no, I don't know, you're going to get in trouble. What if they find out? You're going to get in so much pain. She made this commitment. She had grown this desire in her heart so much. She knew what she was worthy of. She knew that she could do it. She had heard tales. And you know what she used as the way to get to where she wanted? She used the North Star. That was her guiding force, the North Star. And that's where it comes to that quote, God's time is always near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free. She used the North Star to guide her towards freedom. And she had that sense of vision and clarity. And she didn't know all the steps it would take. But once she made that decision, she was set on it. She even had rain the first night, and she went back from the rainy night into her house, and her brothers were like, this is not going to happen. She's like, nope, I'm going to do it. And she went out by herself. She did it all by herself the first time, completely alone, a Black woman out on these roads, unknown roads. There's no GPS. There's not even a map. But she made that commitment and she figured it out. And I want to point out that she had help. She had some help. And she got help from these people called Friends or Quakers. They wore gray and they were anti-slavery. And she was told that there would be no Quaker who would turn her away. And they were friends. And they knew about this path towards freedom that slaves could take. And she heard someone's name and she went to the house. And there was a woman there who gave her eggs and gave her food and gave her guidance on the next step. And so she followed what the woman said, and she was right. And she went to the next house, and she was taken care of by Quakers along the way. These are white people who had privilege in this system of oppression, who used their privilege to help others. And I thought that this was interesting, using what you have, using the privilege that you have to help those who are less privileged along the way. If she didn't have those Quakers, I don't think she would have been able to know where to go or to be supported along the way. It would have been 10 times more dangerous, and who knows if she would have made it. But she had the support. How incredible is that? And we have support in our lives. If we open our eyes, you can see there are unseen and seen beings in our lives. Maybe it's your therapist, maybe it's your friend, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a felt sense in your body. But we have support along the way. We are not alone. And on the theme of people with more privilege helping those with less privilege, this is one of the reasons that for the 4-H method, there is a pay what you can payment structure. So instead of it being one set price, which is a little bit not normal for a program, but instead of there being one set price for everyone, there are different tiers, and it accounts for people who have more privilege to be able to give more of what they have. And it's equal because everyone's giving what they can, so that those with less privilege can still give what they can and get equal support. So those of us with more privilege, even if you feel like you are the bottom of the totem pole, using what you have, using what you can to help others, and a lot of you probably listening to this have a lot of privilege, use that in your life to help other people, to not just glorify yourself or to puff yourself up or to share your own ideas, but to give platforms for others. And finally, I haven't finished the book. She does make it to Pennsylvania. She crosses the border, and even then it's still dangerous because there are bounty hunters who are looking for a reward, looking to trade in a slave for money. But when she makes the end of her journey into Pennsylvania and she is safe, she's legally a free woman. She says this: I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person now I was free. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. And you might not be a slave. I hope not. And our culture has shifted, at least in America, somewhat. There's still lots of injustices. But you are free. You are free. You are free. Because you are worthy, and you are worthy of good things. You have value and dignity just existing. And you have the power to choose. You have the power to choose your thoughts. You have the power to choose your habits, your focus. You have the power to choose what kind of life you want to live. And yes, it took years for Harriet to go from her visions and her desires and to follow that knowing and to trust it enough to go on this treacherous journey to be free. But eventually she did. She acted on it. And the rest of the story, maybe I'll do a part 2 next week, is that she freed so many others from slavery. Because she knew that she was worthy. She knew that she was powerful. She knew that she deserved freedom. And she acted on that knowledge. It's not enough to know. You have to act on it. But when you really know, action is inevitable. So do you know? Do you know you are free? Do you know you are worthy? Do you know you are powerful? If you want to practice more of that for your own freedom from maybe obsession with food or too little or too much exercise or feeling so out of touch with your body or feeling anything less than excitement and joy and peace and connection in your body, with your body, about your body. Come practice in the 4-H method, like do something, act based on that knowledge. And then with your freedom, you are better able to help others. Something that I've been learning a lot now, and maybe you can relate to this, is that when we think of helping others in our lives, or like doing big things like saving the world, we want to help others in these big ways. You know, like I have those dreams too. I want to help others and help so many people in the 4-H method. And in the work that I do, I feel like it's my dream, my vision. Like Harriet had her vision of freedom. I have my own vision of freedom. I want to help others. But you know how you help others the most? Do you know how you help free others the most? Is when you have your own freedom, when you are free. There is so much powerful impact of you being at peace, of you feeling joy, of you being present and fully enjoying and existing in your life and interacting with life. So we don't need to change the world. You don't need to fix all the world's problems. Of course, yes, you can take action, but start with you. If you're not feeling free, if you have oppressive systems in relationships in your life, whether it's with a person or if it's even with fitness, or if it's a system of oppression and you're not free, you can't fully help others. So start with you and then help others. I'll close with this quote from Harriet Tubman. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the passion, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. I'm going to read it again. You're going to have a better flow. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. What is your dream? What is your freedom? You can have it. You can have it.
Hey, you reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much for your time and energy listening to this. I appreciate it so much. If you would be so kind and generous as to leave a positive review for this podcast, it would mean so much to the growth of this so that more people can benefit from it. And even more, it would mean even more if you shared this personally with someone who you think would be able to benefit from this, who would appreciate and enjoy it. Please do that. Always feel free to reach out to me with questions or comments, michelle@mlroscoe.com, or you can find me on Instagram at michelle.lynn.roscoe. Always happy to hear from you. And if you're ready to commit, to take action to making your healthiest life from a place of already enough, join the 4-H method. Make your body your home, your health, your hero journey. The link is in the show notes. Like you, love you, Coach Michelle.